Welcome back to Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a really special Saturday evening episode planned for you guys. It's going to be short, to the point. We're going to provide two awesome plays. My play is an arbitrage play that I think is very low risk, high reward. It's something that I brought to you guys before, but I'm really excited to bring it up now. Before I do, maybe this is a kind of putting salt on the wound, but your Yankees are owned by the Tampa Bay Rays. They literally cannot.
They're horrible. Forget about it. They're owned. If the league wanted to kill the Yankees,
they just play the Rays 162 times.
First of all, just play the Rays. But second of all, also the system that they have with the extra innings, where someone starts on second, it's made for a team like the Rays and not for the Yankees. Not that's. I mean, it happened against the Orioles. It happened against Toronto. They went to extra innings twice in the first two series and lost both of them because they don't play small ball. They can't get runners from base to base. They can't play base to base baseball. They're a home run or nothing. And, that rule has really hurt them already early this season, and it will continue to hurt them. And it hurts them in the playoffs, too. Playoffs are about pitching and getting runners, moving runners over, scoring when you got your runners on base. You can get pretty far in the regular season by mashing home runs, but they need more than DJ LeMahieu to put the ball in play. Everybody else is home run or bust. So yeah, and I told you if you go before the season, I said the Yankees were a team that was going to underperform. So this doesn't surprise me.
Cage, I'm curious. With PSA kind of shutting down, but they're still open. They're still open for higher end cards. So I'm curious. What price point would you consider sending a Super Express card? Where would you need? How would you do the math? Where would you need to sell it at? Where would you need to buy it at to really justify a $300 grading fee?
I would have to. The PSA 9 the card would have to be more than what I'm paying for, plus the $300, plus the time it's going to take. You name it. So I mean, a 9 would have to be probably a $700 to $900 card, just a $700 card, right? Because I'm obviously buying the card. It's going to cost me something, right? So, PS 10's got to be a full-figure card, easy. It's got to be something that's full-figure card to me to be free, and not even $1,000. Like put $300 in. To me, it's a huge gamble. There are very few cards that I would do that kind of grading on. Very few. I mean, right now, I would do that sort of quick turnaround on like people are breaking Select Football and Prism Basketball. Top 3 rookie, top cards, numbered cards. You're talking about like a LaMelo card that's numbered, or an Edwards card that's numbered, a Halliburton card that's numbered, a Wiseman card that's numbered. Same thing with like the Select Football that just came out. You're talking about like a Burrow, a Tua, a Herbert, maybe a Hurts. One of the colored numbered parallels. Something like that is what I would consider sending in now. Beyond that, no. You're right that they have continued, but I have a shit ton of stuff still pending. Nothing's moving. I got stuff sitting in grading from before they increased the price in March to before they shut down in March. It's still sitting in grading. And one of them is going to be fun because I got a quarterly special Pokemon from the second quarter of 2020. So we're in the second quarter of 2021 PSA. So I sent it in June, right? It got there in July. They logged it in August 15th. So already, and this is before all the craziness. Talk about ridiculousness. They logged a quarterly special in on August 15th. But
did you ever watch that show Ridiculousness with
yes,
Rob Udrich?
Yes, but
it's pretty funny.
So
my friend and I used to watch that, but we couldn't stand Chanel West Coast. We just couldn't. She would just giggle the whole time.
Well, listen. The PSA should be on ridiculousness. They're claiming that the complete through date for that second quarter, that quarterly specials, allegedly, is August 2nd. And I'm at August 15th. So I guess I should have these cards should be done and graded in the next 2 weeks. I guess we'll see. PSA is going to get a nasty cageogram very soon if that doesn't happen.
Watch out. I mean, Top Shot's been getting them left and right. So we need to find a new target.
I need a hobby.
Have you been tracking BGS sales at all? Do you even track BGS market?
It's funny. I looked at BGS for the plays today. For my play today was the first time I looked at BGS. I don't. And I also heard, I don't know if it's a rumor, but is BGS closed right now too?
Closed in what sense?
Like they're also not taking in grading. They're also not taking in cards right now. Like I said, I heard a rumor. I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, they have no marketing, nor do they communicate with anyone. So it's
So they're not closed. No one
no one
sending them
knows.
anything. Oh, okay. They don't have to close because no one's sending them anything. Is what you're saying.
It's interesting. When I came in as an outsider, I think there's a few benefits of when you come in as an outsider, you maybe have a different perspective on the market than some other people who've been in it for a long time. Not better or worse, just different.
Yep.
And my perspective was that BGS is really dropping the ball. And yeah, your headset's making a lot of noise. But what I noticed was, and I made a post about this, got a lot of backlash, was that BGS has fallen off, and BGS 9.5s are actually going to be closer to PSA 9s in the future than they will be at PSA 10s.
So,
and here we are 6-7 months later, and that's just a fact. That's literally what's happened.
Yeah, we've said it. We've both said it. I have said the statement, I won't pay more than a PSA 9 for a BGS 9.5. Because I assume, and this is years ago, this is before the pod, I assume that most things in BGS 9.5s are PSA 9s that couldn't be 10s. That's just what I assume. I guess I'm an asshole, but that's why I don't pay for it, and that's why people are like, you even said it the other day. You're like, hey, the Joe Montana card was a BGS 9.5, but the 10 sold for so much more, and we were on with the basketball card guy, I think it was.
Can I give some figures to that real quick, just so people know?
Mm-hmm.
So the PSA 10 Montana sold for 76, I think it was, and the BGS 9.5 with a subgrade 9. So there's that little caveat, sold for less than 10K. That's 1/7 of the price. 1/7.
Because I just assumed that's a PSA 9. I assume it probably was already a PSA 9 case, actually. That's my assumption every time I see a BGS 9, especially a min gem, especially, one with a 9 subgrade. And we've seen that. We've seen it plenty of times. I mean, when the Charizard flew the PSA 10, the BGS 9.5s didn't follow with it. They stayed closer to the 9s. When Jordan cards sell, the BGS 9.5. And you know what? I got to tell you, that's just telling you about the market. That's telling you about the scarcity. That's telling you, it used to be a buy the card, not the holder. That is not the market anymore. That's what people used to say. And most people who said it at the shows were the ones sitting there without PSA 10s. They were the ones who were going to convince you that their card in a BGS 9.5 holder or a PSA 9 holder is just as nice. I do it myself, guys. But here's the funny part. Or not funny if you're one of the people who's been grading in the last 6 months. PSA, I'd like to say, the cards, there are some cards that are PSA 9s that are nicer than the PSA 10s, like my Charizard from last year. You're going to hear that from people more and more this coming year. And you can hear it from reputable people in the marketplace. People who have been grading for a long time. I watch, my favorite thing to watch on Instagram when I'm not watching us is people unboxing their cards. And people who are, I can't do it, man. I need to know what it is. As soon as PSA grades my cards, I check what the grades are. I don't care, right? But there are people who are able to get the sealed box in their possession and wait and see the grade, make like a big reveal out of it. For the last 2 months, there's this phenomenon. I'm going to name it. I'll try to name it right now and call it, holy shit, what did PSA do to me phenomenon. Maybe that's what I'll call it. Because these are people they're used to getting back these brick boxes of 20 cards per box and multiple boxes and make a pyramid and a stack and build a house of cards, literally, and open it up and get 10 after 10 after 10 after 10 and a 9 and a 10 and a 10 and a 10 and a 9. Oh, I wasn't really expecting a 10 on that one. Well, 9 and a 10, 9. Well, now those boxes look more like 10, 9, 9, 8, 9, 10, 8, 8, 9, 6, 10, 10, 9, 8. It's not the same. And these are not people who are now grading shit. These are not people who lost their eyesight and lost the ability to look at what should be a 10. They're grading the same cards that would have been a 10 a couple of months ago, but are not 10s now. And I'm curious about how that impacts the whole thing we got going on here, right? Because I'll use Prism Basketball as a good little indicator, right? You put up a great post about Trey Prism PSA 10 and Devin Booker. Guys, if you haven't weighed in on that, take a look at it. It's a great post. And a lot of the comments we got, including one from yours truly, talked about the pop difference between a Booker and a Trey, right? And that was probably the biggest dividing factor in which they selected. And we all know that there's a whole bunch of Prism produced of this year, and in the last couple of years, that Prism produces more and more each year. But with PSA combining a price increase and what I consider a more difficult grading. Are we going to see a bell curve? Are we going to see that 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Prism start that way up to 18, 19, 20 Prism be the top of the bell curve and then start to come down on that PSA 10 report? Because now they're grading 10s harder and people are not grading every one of those rookies anymore. Are we going to see that just like is that what they're trying to do? Are they trying to bring that back down and create a level of scarcity?
What Cage is saying, like, let's fast forward 6-7 months. Will there be, if there's 15,000 Lukas and 15,000 Zions PSA 10, will there be 7,000 LaMelos PSA 10s?
Right.
That's what Cage is basically saying. Will there be?
Right. Like if you were able to take a snapshot 6 months after the release of the last 3 years of Prism, and let's say 6 months after there were 5,000 Lukas, 5,000 Zions, will there only be 3,000 LaMelos because the PSA shut down, increase in price? Or is PSA now just not grading the same cards as easily? Do they have a list of cards? I saw a post. I'd love to give you credit for the post. I forget who it was. Huge boxes of cards, and they broke cases upon cases of Heritage from 2019, and they sent in all the rookies. The Bichettes, the Guerreros, the Tatises. They sent in all the rookies from the same case. They said they opened them, sleeved them, sent them in, done. They got like an 85% gem rate. Like something like 22 out of 25 on Bichette, 22 out of 25 on Guerrero, but went like 0 for 23 on Tatis, and they were like, was there some sort of print defect on only the Tatises that I didn't see? So that is an interesting post because it lets you know maybe they are just pulling the Tatis ones and saying, well, we can't 10 these because there's too many 10s. I don't know.
I'll tell you. I think there's 2 categories of cards that PSA is looking at, and they break them into these 2 categories. Base cards, I do agree that they've started grading those significantly harder. But I will say that Super Express, 1 out of 10 cards or 1 out of 25, just premium cards. I think they're just grading them just the same. I think what they did was they kind of wanted to curt the base craze that we were going through, right? Like when I entered the hobby, a big thing was people were like, base craze. Where did this come from? Like no one used to care about base cards. Now everyone cares about them. So I think what PSA did was they saw that and they realized that they just can't consistently gem base cards. But at the same time, I don't think that they're grading any harder or any easier on really rare, low pop cards. I think that they're grading them just as is. Okay. So that's my play today, guys. Take a look. It's more of a strategy. I'll let you guys figure out your own plays for it. But it's take a look at some BGS 9.5s of numbered rookies in the Prism set. You could look at some higher end parallels or inserts. But take a look at those BGS 9.5s, cards that are in the $1,000 to $5,000 range. And inspect them for sure. See if there's good quality photos. Inspect them before you buy them, right? Because not every BGS 9.5 is the same. Some you're like, how did this get a 9.5? This is clearly a really nice card. And some like you see a 9.5 on the corners, but you could see the corners dinged. Don't buy a corner dinged or a card that's off-centered, regardless of the grade. Really inspect the card. Take a look at BGS 9.5s. Inspect the card for yourself and make a decision of, does this have a chance at a PSA 10? And I would crack those and sub those to PSA. And here's what you got when you do that. I'm talking about the $1,000 to $5,000 cards. Worst case scenario, and this is really important to do the diligence up front to look at the photos, make sure that it actually has a chance at a 10. So this is where you buy the card, not the grades, and use the grades as a support to what you're seeing. But worst case scenario, you're breaking even or losing a few $100. But best case scenario is that 9.5 goes 4 or 5x if it hits a PSA 10. And I think for higher end cards, if you send them in one at a time, not like Cage said, those boxes of base cards, because they're going to grade those way differently when they see 50 cards from one guy. They're just going to grade that differently. But if you send in one card, Super Express, you bought it for $1,500 in a BGS 9.5. You cracked it out and you send it to PSA, and the PSA 10, for example, is selling on eBay for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. I think that's a really good risk reward, because worst case scenario, you're losing a few $100 here and there. Best case scenario, you're making 4 or 5,000. So let's say four. Your potential upside is 4,000. Your potential downside is, let's say, $500. Okay, let's even say $1,000. You have 4-to-1 risk reward. So right now, when the market's kind of a little bit uncertain, if you're looking for a play, I would take a look at how oversold BGS cards and see if you can crack them and send them into PSA on the Super Express level.
All right, I like it. I like it. Be careful. Do a little research. Don't do this with like the Derek Jeter foil 1993 SP card or other cards. Just plug the card in because, you know, sometimes PSA changes the grades and BGS changes the way they're grading these cards. The last thing you want to do is crack out a card that's had some changes in like the way that they grade it, and then you can't even get it back in like a BGS 9.5. Speaking from experience here, right? So like I
say that again.
So if you're buying like a BGS, let's say BGS 9 of the Jeter 93 SP, and you cracked it out and sent it to PSA, hoping that you get at least a PSA 9 or a PSA 10, and then buy yourself a house. If it doesn't work and it comes back like a PSA 8, and you're like, shit, I'd rather have that than a BGS 9. Let me send it back to them. Sometimes they won't even grade it. Sometimes they'll say it's trimmed, even though it's not a trim card. It was in their holder, because sometimes they change the grading, the guidelines for what they grade over time. And that card, and there were other ones, I'm just using that as an example, you know, they came factory, you know, some of them came out smaller from the factory by, you know, a 32nd of an inch, and it no longer meets their minimum size requirement to put it in a slab. So modern cards you shouldn't have a problem with on Andrew's strategy. It's just, I hear about the cracking stuff, and I get a little nervous because I have cracked a couple of cards, and they've come back, you know, where not only will PSA not grade it, but I can't even get it back in the card that I originally bought it in. It's a rare thing, but it's just, you know, one of those things. I've done this.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah,
let's do this. DM us. This is a play that's going to take some research. So DM us. Send us some photos.
Yep.
I think of this as kind of stacking the deck in your favor type of thing. Like, it might not work, but I think if you do this 5 times, for example, and you hit 1 out of 5, you're breaking even. If you hit 2 out of 5, you're sitting pretty. Like I'm thinking like out of 10, a gold LeBron insert, right?
Yep.
In a right, like let's just use that card. It doesn't matter what year. That's in a BGS 9.5. It's not really sought after. But if somehow that becomes a 10, for some reason, or PSA 10 people like kind of look at it differently, there's all of these cards floating around there. And there's people sitting on BGS 9.5s that are kind of just a little desperate to get out of them, as you can see by the prices. And at the same time, there's no demand that's pumping those BGS 9.5 sales. So you could get BGS 9.5s cheap of pretty solid cards. So just stack the deck in your favor. That's what this play is. This isn't anything more than that.
Listen, this is a great play from Andrew because it's not telling you which specific card to go after. It's telling you it's a strategy, right? We got a message from one of our listeners telling us, big thank you. You know, they made some plays based on what we've told them over the last couple of months, and they're able to now, afford some land that they're going to buy and, maybe build a tiny house on it. So that was a pretty nice message.
That's kind of cool.
Please, if you're out there and you got a story to share with us, good or bad. If it's bad, trust me, we're not going to walk it back. Not every play has been perfect. More have than not. But we love to hear those stories, the success stories as well. I mean, I can tell you that I woke up today with an additional sense of let's make sure our play is really fire today. Got that message from one of our listeners, Alex Bailey. And
what's up, Alex?
So, Alex, if you're listening, we did read it. We are appreciative of the message. And guys, please, it's like Andrew used to say in the very beginning. He hasn't said it in a while, but it's our oxygen. And it really is. It really is. It's what keeps us going. What gives us, the energy to keep producing content every day. So here's mine. Right. So it's a double forgotten. Basketball cards have kind of been forgotten, right? And then this particular player has kind of been forgotten. And I wanted to give a play on what we talked about, which is the older prisms. I saw what's going on with Booker's cards, and I wanted to look at Giannis's cards, and I'm like, all right, well, Giannis is pretty good, but I don't know if it's coming out of the East, right? I just don't know, right? And the West looks really good. And I'm like,
Cage, his knee is not looking that great right now.
That's right. It's true. So I'm looking at Giannis, and I'm like, maybe Giannis. And I see, it's still $3,500 for his Prism from 2030. It's not, it's way down from where it was, but yeah. I mean, if he has a nice run, it could be a good card. And then I looked, and I said, you know what? There are not many guys in the league right now who won Defensive Player of the Year, won 2 championships, and was the MVP in both of those championships. Not too many of those. Can you think of who I'm talking about?
Andre Iguodala?
No, much better. Much better.
Iguodala is very good. It's just
This
he
guy's
had an
much
amazing
better.
career.
I wouldn't give an Iguodala play though. Kawhi Leonard.
For sure.
So that's who. And
Kawhi is freakishly good, Cage. It's crazy how underappreciated he is. He's so good.
Is, before LeBron won his last title, and it was going to be set up as Clippers, Lakers, and LeBron and Kawhi had just come off of 2 years of he won with one team. He came with the other one. He won with Toronto. Now he's with the Clippers, Lakers, and who knows? Maybe the Clippers win. Clippers did not perform the way that everybody wanted them to, but can't really take much away from the decade that Kawhi has had, right? I mean, an amazing player. And right now, everybody's talking about the West with what? The Suns, the Nuggets,
the Jazz. It's open. Jazz. It's wide open.
I say? You got to show me first. You got to show me you can do it. Kawhi, the Clippers haven't, but Kawhi at least has shown he can do it, right? He can put a team on his shoulders, and he can go out there and get a championship. You play defense in the playoffs when you need to, which is really what you need, some team play. Not sure about the Clippers team play, but I love Kawhi. I think he's going to win more. And he's already won 2 with 2 different teams and 2 finals MVPs. Already puts him in some pretty rare company among current active players. So you get that resume, but you also get the potential upside on his cards. So I looked at his 2012 cards, and I started looking at the Prism. But then I did an Andrew move. And I said, you know what? We got to give our listeners something that's a little more rare. I don't know whether or not those Prism base cards are the way to go for long-term investment, right? They may be the first thing that somebody looks for in a playoff run right now. And if that's the way you want to go, you want to spend, $2,200 on a PSA 10 Prism base rookie of Kawhi, no problem. I think you're going to do fine. I think as the playoffs come, I think May 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, is when the playoffs are. So you got little. Go ahead.
Kawhi's Prism PSA 10 is $2,100?
Yeah, $2,200. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know how much Giannis's is?
$3,500. Yeah.
Wow.
But here's where it gets even better. My play is, I said,
that's unacceptable in my opinion.
$2,200. I said, you know what? You can buy rookie autos, 2012 Panini autos of Kawhi in PSA 10 for significantly less than his Prism base card. We're talking pops of 25, 30 or less in PSA 10.
That's a good play.
So I said, hey, Andrew talked about this all the time. I'm not an auto guy, but I think that might be my 2021 shift, guys. This might be a monumental episode on a Saturday. We hope you're listening to it, right? This might be signifying where I'm going to start to look on my money, because I start looking at the pops on some of these rookie autos. You want to go RPA, you're talking a little bit more money, but just rookie autos. In 2012, there's no shortage of these things, right? You take a look, and you can get $1,500 a PSA 10 auto. You want to go to BGS and go to a BGS 9.5 or a 9, you can find a rookie auto right now on eBay of Kawhi, $600. Rookie auto 2012, $700, $900 or best offer for a BGS 9.5. And nice ones, good signatures, nice cards, already slabbed, right? So I'm not going to tell you which one. There's a whole ton of them, right? Prestigious autos. There's I can't even tell you. I look at 6 different kinds. Pick the one that you like the most. Pick the one that has the coolest looking signature. Pick the one that has a grade you like, the case you like, the card you like. But what you'll notice is, even though I'm telling you there's plenty of them now, that's a relative term. There's 5 or 8. There's plenty of different kinds of them. But while there's always going to be more Prism 2012 base PSA 10s that come up for auction every single week, people are dropping more of those in there as we head to the playoffs. These are the kind of cards, these autos, that there are only a couple dozen of each one of them, especially in the PSA 10s.
Somebody buys future Hall of Famer, of a champion.
1 or 2 of those off eBay. That's not a supply that gets replenished. You know what I mean? Those people are not just sitting with those looking to dump them back on eBay for $1,000 or $1,500. So I have a feeling when people start to look there and start to look at those lower pop scarcity, a cooler add-on it's an autograph. It's not just a base card. I think that might be where we start to go. And what made me think about this is, we almost made it through a whole episode without talking about Top Shot, but I'm going to go there anyway. People are talking about Top Shot and the moments and the whole deal, and I see a lot of comments like, when these things will be really cool is when the athletes are allowed to digitally sign them. And I said to myself, why not just buy the autograph card? And people are making arguments about how there's an attachment to it. It's not just a picture on a card. It's the person actually touched the card. He signed the card or the sticker or whatever it may be. And it brings it a little closer, more of a memorabilia, more of a tie to the athlete and something more tangible. And, as we chase scarcity, as we chase the next thing that people might be looking for, this is what I'm looking at now. And I wanted to bring that to you guys. And it just didn't make sense to me that you go buy a PSA 10 rookie auto for cheaper than that PSA 10 Prism base card. So that was my play for today. It doesn't have to be the Prism. It doesn't have to be go ahead.
This is one of those plays where you can't lose money. I mean, it might not become the most valuable card in the world, but I mean, we're talking about a Hall of Famer, a two-time champion who might end with 3, 4, 5 championships. This guy's out of the spotlight, so he's never doing anything dumb. He's not even making any comments.
Right.
So there's very little to hurt his brand. And guys, let's use a Hakeem Olajuwon, right, for a second, because Kawhi kind of reminds me of him, right? Like, okay, Hakeem is not the greatest player of all time, but he comes from an iconic set, iconic year. He had an amazing career. He's a top 10, 15 player of all time. Kawhi's going to be right there with him.
Very similar. 2 championships, same.
So, I mean, we're talking about as accomplished an athlete as there is. Let's look at Giannis. If Giannis even ends his career with the accolades that Kawhi, that would be amazing. That would be something special. And here you have a guy who you could buy his auto rookie patch for a few $100 to $1,000.
Yeah,
and he's already accomplished.
You want to get raw ones? Forget it. It's a couple $100 the raw ones were. So
it's a good play, Cage.
I appreciate it. I like Kawhi, and I'm definitely going to grab one of these for my own collection. And I don't have too many autos. And you know what I even thought about? This is not a guy that's going to have a ton of autos. When he retires, he's not going to be looking for the limelight, right? He's not going to be out there in the public of doing auto signings and stuff. That's like the opposite of his persona. So, I actually did think about that. When I'm like, his autos are not going to be the most. There's not going to be a ton of them out there. So. All right. Well, listen, there's a play. It's a little different for us, both of us today. Different strategy. And
let's talk about Zion. Let's talk about Zion's monster game. He destroyed my Sixers yesterday.
Dude, he's different. He's a different
37, 15, and 8 against Embiid.
I was watching.
Dude, that Sixers team is good. That Sixers team is no joke, especially defensively.
31 through 3 quarters. Like they were pulling away with the game, and he would have had more. I think if it were a more competitive game. Like you know what's amazing? He's one of those guys that if you're not watching the game, you don't realize just how easy the buckets are coming for him. You know what I mean? Like, and if you just look at his cards, you're like, he's a fat guy. Right. Panini does him no favors on his cards. But
Panini is so interesting. Why do they only choose like the least flatter? I think they're photoshopping him bigger. Like I think they're purposely making him a little bit like.
I don't know.
Those mirrors. The mirrors at the gym. I don't know if you guys have ever heard. So it's. Did you watch? Do you watch a game? Who's guarding him on the Sixers?
Embiid was sometimes. What's funny is he's weird on offense. They don't run the offense through him. So I can't even tell you who's guarding him because he stays on the outside unless he's bringing the ball up, which he does every now and again. He stays on the outside. He lets his teammates, basically shoot, and he's either runs in for a lob or he's offensive rebounding, and he finds a way to just be smooth with the ball. So I don't know. They had like 3 different people guarding him during the game, and what's funny about him? I re-listened to the Patrick Bet-David about the scoring 100 points. When he'll be scary is when they do run the offense through him. Right now, they don't.
Right.
If they ever decided to, we're going to run it through him on the post, or we're going to let him bring the ball up, or, he's going to be the first person we look to every time, it's going to be crazy what happens. You watch the game, you'd be surprised. Like, there is no other, with the points he's putting up, you would expect to see every time down the court, they're setting up the offense to run through him, like Luka. Like, the ball is in Luka's hands every possession. Zion goes 4 or 5 possessions without touching the ball. He'll stay on the outside. Ingram will shoot, or someone else will shoot, and Lonzo will shoot, and he'll try for an offensive rebound if there is one. but the game kind of just comes to him differently than anybody else that I watch. It's weird.
Well, that was a really good point. As you were talking there, I was kind of visualizing it. I mean, it's hard to verbalize this, right? Like, when Luka takes the ball up the court or Curry takes the ball up the court, like Curry's a great example of this. Sometimes he struggles to find his game because the whole defense is honed in on him, right? Zion somehow finds the gaps within the defense, right?
Which is amazing for someone as big as him, that he's
right.
somehow hidden.
So the defense can't really hone in on him. They can't just like lock him down because he's kind of in between. Then he gets the ball, he makes a quick move, and he's already at the hoop. And it's too late then. And that's really interesting. Like Giannis, right? Giannis is an interesting guy. He's so easy to stop sometimes because you see where he's going. You could get to the spot before him. Somehow Zion, for someone his size, he doesn't get a lot of charges called against him either.
No, well, because he doesn't. The contact's not there. It's weird. If you watch him, he's very springy. He's got a great first step, and he's like Teflon. I am a Shaq guy, and I wanted to make a Zion-Shaq comparison. Shaq was playing through people. He was playing on people. Like, he was jumping on them. And he
gets the ball in the post, turns and just dunks on him.
And dunking on top of people. Zion is getting the ball in the post and somehow making a move where he's, like, slithering around the player and not getting contact, which may hurt because maybe he won't get as many three-point plays. You know what I mean? He won't get as many fouls, but they still seem to foul him. But
the one thing that I don't know if this is right. I mean, you guys can tell me. I remember, Jason Richardson, right? Remember the great dunker? And I always thought about this, like volleyball players, for example, they jump off of 2 feet. The reason they do that is so that they don't have their momentum fly into the net. And most people jump off 2 feet. Like, in theory, you should jump higher, but it's actually, there's a lot of technique. Zion's jump stop is incredibly effective. And that's why he doesn't get a lot of charges. He's always under control. But not only, he has this rare quality where he could jump stop and then quickly explode off 2 feet and dunk on you. And that's rare because most people, they finish off one leg or two legs or one foot, right? They're going up, right, left. He's able to jump stop and quickly bounce. And he's as explosive, if not more explosive, than just about everyone. That's so interesting how those little subtleties that I've picked up. I'm curious if Luka Nation has as well.
Yeah, well, Zion's one of those weird ones, man. I follow an account, I don't know if he listens to us, Brooklyn Vintage Cards, and he's been saying for the longest time, you can't lose money buying LeBron. I think he had a post today, and he's like, I'm going to switch my mantra. I've been saying you can't lose money buying LeBron for 18 years, and I'm finally going to say it after watching his last couple games. You can't lose money buying Zion, which I don't know whether that's true, although he put a little in there, like you can if you're buying NFTs. So,
who would you want to see Zion paired with?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I mean, a real good pick and roll guard would be great. Anyone. Look, I would love to see him go play with Steph Curry for a little while. That would be fantastic. Like a real great pick and roll 3-point shooter, because the defenses would really have to respect that kind of, inside-outside game. Somebody in that mold. What would be fun? This is going to sound really stupid, but it could happen. I'd love to see him paired up with Trey. I'd love to see a Trey Zion pairing. Right, that inside-outside kind of game. That would be kind of cool. We didn't get to see it for too long, but it would remind me a little bit of a Penny Shaq. They didn't last together for long enough, but that would have been a really dynamic inside-outside combo. But something like that, man. Somewhere where the defense can't be 3 on one guy, right? Like, you have to respect, and it's not just respect of 2 players who are similar; it's respect of 2 completely opposite players. So.
I knew this was going to be a good episode. I really like both of our plays. It's fun. So, Luka Nation, I mean, we got a ton of DMs from you guys over the last 24 hours. Let us know. Like, we love the guest episodes. We love the Star Stock episodes. We love these daily plays. We're figuring out the scheduling. So, as we're doing that, feel free to reach out and let us know what you love, what you don't.
We got a lot of great feedback about Lior and the basketball card guy the last couple of guest episodes. If you haven't listened to those, take a listen. 2 of my favorites. And they're really well done. Great stuff. Great knowledge from both of those guys. And guys, if you haven't done it yet, please take a look. Luka Nation Network Instagram page. That's our network. Ultimately, we're building up something bigger than just this podcast here. Our first branch off is with Luka Nation Conrad. And you guys all know him. He's got great content out there. Follow him as well if you don't. And we'll be adding more talent to the Luca Nation network before you know it. So if you haven't followed, if you're a fan of the podcast, do us a favor, support us by following that Luca Nation network. Help us get the word out. Thank you, guys.